Mine's in the car. I would.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day,
Low.
find something.
Yeah.
And they'll do it. You think they're gonna say no? I'll be shocked.
Brief the children.
Hey, Renee.
It's different without the sweater.
There was a dare for me to wear my ugly sweater to the council meeting, but I didn't do that.
Renee.
Early?
Oh, you're.
Get that off.
Oh.
Here, Bonnie. Joey. Now today, there's that, and there's this. Megan, you know I don't have a pen. Huh? Yeah.
I wasn't good at school. I was the guy in the back. ABC News. Welcome to Graham, North Carolina. Oh, big right. Let me guess. Races. That an expensive thing up here. If I break it, it is. I have no idea.
How are you?
When I started, they had.
Hey, you You'll feel like you won the lottery.
Thank you.
Let's leave the door open. Oh, wait.
Is it your thing?
Yeah. It's the new bakery that moved in.
We love that. Great. Okay. Really.
Who? Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to exclude you. I have to look that up. No.
There's.
We're ready to go here? Aaron, we ready to go? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for being here tonight, taking time out of your day to be here. Tonight's city council meeting being held December 13th, 2022. I'll just call this meeting to order at this time. And if you'll all bow your heads to pray. Do you mind giving our invocation?
Heavenly Father, we ask that you grant us wisdom as we assume the responsibility of making decisions in regards to our community and to the citizens of Graham. We celebrate this time, dear Lord, and we ask that you watch over us, bless our nation, bless our city, and grant us wisdom and courage to do the right thing. These things we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
If you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now read over the consent agenda. A, to approve the November 8th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. B, to approve a budget amendment transferring $84,100 of federal drug forfeiture revenue to the federal account balance for law enforcement use pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 159-8, to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $57,570 for recreation facility improvements, to adopt a resolution declaring the intention of Graham City Council to consider permanently closing Leonard Drive on the southern right of way of Edgewood Drive and setting a date of public hearing for January 10th, 2023, to adopt a resolution setting a date of public hearing for January 10th, 2023, to consider a contiguous annexation pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160A-31 for a tract of land totaling 35.43 acres located on East Gilbert Street. F, to approve the following tax releases in the amount of $1,290.48. Is there any questions from the council for staff on these consent agenda items? Is the 57,000, Megan, for the roof?
No, the 57,000 includes donations from, I think, Friends of the Recreation Department to fund the flooring in the small gym. As you'll recall, the capital improvement plan for this fiscal year was partially funded for recreation to do the large gym. So they had donations to do the small gym flooring at the same time. Plus, a portion of the increase is for the large gym floor. When they went to pull everything up, there was a moisture issue underneath the flooring that had to be rectified before they could put the new flooring down. So there are two reasons there.
The difference in the estimate of what we thought the flooring was to be replaced and what it actually cost is that just a small part of the 57?
Our finance director could probably tell you the exact dollar amounts, but part of it was, I would say, probably around 25 or so thousand was for the small gym floor. And then the difference was to fix the moisture issue under the large gym.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Excuse me, the amount that you read for B, 84,100,
$84,100.
not what I had on the original, did that change in some fashion, I gather? Could you explain maybe what the difference is?
Could you explain what the difference is?
I think our police department may want to give the itemized, there was an itemized breakdown in the agenda packet that gave the specific dollar amounts associated with their proposed expenditures.
Oh, well, if she'd like to speak on that, then we can just pull that item from the agenda. Make a motion that we pull item number B, item A, letter B. Do I hear a second?
I second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. In regards to the consent agenda, A, C, D, E, F, make a motion to approve.
Second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. And I recognize Chief Christie Cole Baker, if you can come up here and talk a little bit about your budget amendment.
We submitted the itemized listing for transfer of funds for equitable sharing program that we're a part of. What questions do you guys want on the,
Could you go through the itemization of how much for each item?
so crisis management, communication, development, support and training, 30,000, that's for a year for training of all of our staff, supporting our community policing initiative, our recruiting video, $8,052.71, and that's including a 5% late fee. The purchase of a police motorcycle for $7,400. 8 weeks of canine training for 2 canine officers and the purchase of canines, that would be 22,000. 8 weeks lodging, 2 officers, we estimate 5,200 meals, 4,300, $20, and upfitting of canine vehicle be 71,0148. And this would be from our federal forfeiture funding.
So you have an existing vehicle that you're upfitting? Is that right?
It's just an upgrade to the vehicle.
Okay, so the training and the lodging and all that is for for the officers to go somewhere else and get that training, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the bulk of it is for training for police officers,
Mhm.
the first item that you mentioned.
Yes.
And anybody have any questions?
The only difference is we just need to correct the figure shown on the agenda of 84,100 to reflect the $84,074.19, $25.81. So they round, so we need to either-
Yeah, for purposes of budgeting, we typically deal in just whole dollar amounts.
Then
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
excuse me, part of my question though is not the expenditures, which is very helpful to elaborate on, but I guess the stores, because the budget amendment as it was first out in the agenda packet was 45,100 to be received in funds. I'm guessing that you have now gotten more funds from forfeiture, federal drug forfeiture?
No, so that account continuously receives deposits depending on the activities from cases and the forfeitures, the assets that are seized and forfeitures that are turned over in accordance with the sharing agreement.
Madam Mayor, all I'm trying to figure is the agenda packet says there's 45,100 in.
The first packet that was sent out was incorrect, and it was updated to include the correct request, the correct staff report.
of
That was error on my part.
incoming revenue for 100, which you're going to expand in the way you previously outlined.
Well, it's not incoming, it's funds on hand, so that we have those.
So in other words, there's a separate account that holds all for forfeiture funds. And then the department head for the police department has to come and then request the council to move those funds from that specially designated fund over to actually spend it in their operating account. Yes, yes. And it's money that's within their discretion to decide what's important. I mean, that's what the department heads do. So it's the chief of police and the assistant chief. My just question is just an employment type question. You spend all this money to train somebody and to get them trained and to have the dog and all of that, which I think, I mean, I love having a canine on our law enforcement staff. I think when we had one, I'm old enough to remember when we had one before, and I felt like they were very, very useful in preventing things and preventing injuries and all sorts of different things. But you invest all this time and money and energy in getting someone, and then they get certified and then they leave and go work for another department. Is there anything that we can do to ensure that, you know, I have the same problem for the business that I run? And it's a little frustrating, you know, you spend all this time, you
So
know,
many-
qualifying somebody and then they go somewhere else.
If I may answer that, I apologize for interrupting. Our personnel policy revisions that we've been working through with Councilmember Chin and others in-house has a provision in there that if there are certain dollar amounts invested in employees, that there are retention policies that go along with that, or the cost would be paid back to the city. So assuming that city council adopts that, when we bring it to you after the first of the year, that would help cover this, which is a significant investment in training.
Yeah, it's like you spend all this money to get them certified, like an employee that I have as a mechanic, right? They get all these certifications and now they're like really well wanted in the, well needed and wanted in the job market. And you've invested all this time and energy in them, and training them, and then they go somewhere else. And, you know, didn't you say that you got the police dogs for free?
So we did have a transfer of one police dog from the city of Burlington recently. We do not have a handler trained at this time, so that dog will, and the handler will need to go to training to receive training. Right now, the dog that we received from the city of Burlington is kind of in I guess you call it like
Reconditioning.
yeah,
It's kind of a-
phase.
So,
It's not in training yet. We don't have the fundings in our account to start the training with the piece of equipment at this time.
Right, but I mean, I was just advocating for you in the sense that a lot of times those dogs are very expensive. And the fact that you got one that didn't cost you a large amount of money and you just have to train it, I think is a good thing. So,
The city of Burlington reallocated that piece of equipment to the city of Graham at no cost.
yeah, thank you very much for facilitating that. I think that was a really positive thing for us and really helps pay for the training, right? So thank you so much, officer. Anybody else have any questions? Joey? Ricky?
No, ma'am.
Bonnie?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this allocation.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All oppose? Motion carries. We'll move now to old business. Panhandling ordinance, repeal chapter 12, article 1, section 12-3, and add section 12-20 to 12-25, public panhandling, begging, charitable, and political solicitation. City council will consider adopting an amendment to the code of ordinances, repealing chapter 12, article 1, section 12-3, and adding section 12-20 to 12-25, public panhandling, begging, charitable, and political solicitation. And I want to recognize our Assistant City Manager, Aaron Holland.
All right, thank you, Mayor. This was an item that was brought up at the conclusion of the October 11th City Council meeting. That directed staff to review our current ordinances as they pertain to panhandling and see if there were any modifications or changes that we could possibly make. Staff along with attorneys did look into that. We brought back amended language, as you just pointed out, that did repeal section 12-3 in its entirety and then added a new section under 12-20 titled public panhandling, begging, charitable, and political solicitation to our code of ordinances. No action could be taken at the time for last month due to the timing of that ordinance being brought to council. But we did have a discussion then, and that's why we're here today to consider the adoption of this code.
Okay, so our public hearing on this was last month. Bob, do you have anything to say about the ordinance? You've reviewed it and.
Staff here, we made some minor changes and we feel like this is a good start with respect to, to addressing this problem.
And how long is I mean, I know it's tailored after the one in Burlington or their ordinance. How long is that? That's been in place for a while.
Well, we've had it for a long time, but it was totally reworked in 2018. And it's been in effect in Burlington with minor changes since 2018. So effectively 4 years So, but, it has not been legally challenged, so.
Okay, so
feel-
that's good.
Feel good about it. I think it meets the, the constitutional, freedom of speech, elements that we were required to meet when we draft this type of ordinance, and I would certainly recommend that it be adopted.
Okay, we appreciate you taking the time to update the ordinance. I don't think, I mean, that's things that lawyers handle, right? So, but we greatly appreciate it. So we need a motion and a second to approve, deny repealing chapter 12, article 1, section 12.3, and adopting section 12.20 to 12.25, public panhandling, begging, charitable, and political solicitation ordinance.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this change.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to board appointments. To consider appointments to the Rec and Historic Resource Commission. Anybody have an opportunity to read through some of the applications here that we have? Yes.
I read through them all.
The Alex Demuck, does any of the council members or does any of the staff know much about that gentleman? He had a pretty impressive application.
I don't know any of them.
I don't know. any
I
of-
just read the
I don't know any of
applications
them
and they were
either.
all very good, so.
Um. I mean, I think it would be good to have someone with development knowledge on the Historic Resource Commission.
Madam Mayor, how many vacancies are there at each place?
Well, there's 2 vacancies on the Rec Commission, and I was gonna ask the council if we could wait one more month for deciding on that, because that's just came available, I think, last month, and we hadn't really been advertised that much. And then the Historic Resource Commission, we've advertised that. We try to usually advertise it for about 2 or 3 months to try to get some applicants in, and move forward with the Historic Resource Commission.
Is that one spot?
That's just one spot. Yes, yes. So can I make a motion that we consider Alex Demuck for and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but for the Historic Resource Commission, and that we wait another month for the Rec Commission vacancy so that we can get some more advertising on that.
Madam Mayor, I'll second your motion.
All in favor?
I was going to nominate Mr. Gainey.
Okay, well, I think he's applied for other things, so we can certainly,
Well, he's applied for the Economic Development and Mobility Market, so
okay, well,
that'll be good.
yeah,
That'll be fine.
that's fine. So what was your vote?
I would abstain, but I'll vote yes.
Okay, motion carries. And now we'll discuss the Cherry Lane overlay.
Madam Mayor, so did you both appoint a person and delay the other?
We appointed the person on the Historic Resource Commission, and we postponed the Recreation Commission to give it more time to advertise. We only have one applicant, so we need to at least have a race, right, Tom? Cherry Lane overlay, planning board requests the city council's direction for the next steps of the proposed Cherry Lane overlay. And this is up for discussion tonight. And I apologize for my voice. I sound like, but I had a great time this weekend. So, I have a little bit of laryngitis, but I am not sick. I just strained my vocal cords singing Christmas carols. So I know, is Chad here? I didn't see Chad tonight. Oh, yes, okay. So who was gonna discuss this? It didn't,
I guess I was gonna lead it in, for the most part, but our planning board discussed at their, last meeting, and I believe Councilmember Parsons was there as well, about the potential overlay for the Cherry Lane area. I know Chad had been working for the better part of a year or so on trying to create some sort of overlay for that area. I know it started off with a 30-some page document, and then he trimmed it down to about a 4 to 5 page document. But in that time frame, and I would like to say, I think staff also understands and supports the idea that there needs to be some attention, regulatorily for that area, because it does have some rapid industrial growth, and we do want to make sure that we're protecting the residents out in that area as well, while at the same time recognizing that there are residents or property owners out there who are property owners who are wishing to also maybe sell their investments to, I guess, do the other side of what this overlay is sort of seeking to do. With that being said, staff has a alternative thought process to how we can protect that area. The overlay seems to be, it's kind of like you can kill a mosquito with your hand, or you can kill it with a bazooka. We don't necessarily need to kill it with a bazooka. We can, address it through maybe setbacks and landscape buffer ordinances particular to that particular area, while at the same time, City Council has approved us to move forward with a comprehensive plan update that we just approved for $40,000 a month or so ago. So that's already in the process as well. That's going to address it. So there's a thought process that we can do an immediate sort of solution with the ordinance changes, while at the same time work on that comprehensive plan update to maybe have a long-term solution to sort of strengthen that. But with that being said, planning board did meet on the language that Chad did present, and they didn't want to put any more effort into it without knowing whether City Council wanted them to. So there's that part of the question that is being brought before you tonight. Which direction would you prefer for them to look into to move forward?
well, I think every parcel is, this is my personal opinion, and we'll move on to every person to give their views, but every parcel is unique. And, when we're looking at, I think some of the things in here say 16-foot berms, having setbacks that are really far off the road, and then also requiring berms seems a little double jeopardy to me. To me, like, if you can't even see over the berm, what do you cares on the other side? This would be me as a neighbor. I mean, if I lived there. So I think that encouraging responsible growth, that's the thing that we all are trying to get to. When you're going to develop a parcel of property, actually thinking about your neighbors that are out there. So, I mean, I'd like to see us trying to encourage developers to take into consideration noise, lighting issues, visibility. Obviously, if we're close to 2 major interstates, that logistic companies are just going to want to come to Graham. They want to come anywhere where 2 major interstates going north, south, east, west converge, and we have 3 exits off of those main corridors. So I just want us to be reasonable. I feel like you know, when I talk to several of the residents, they're very reasonable, but when you have people that say, well, we don't want tractor trailers on Cherry Lane, I'm like, that's just not, I mean, that's not something that I think this body can prevent from happening. I just want people to be realistic in what they are asking and not misrepresent what we have the power to be able to do. Obviously DOT has a lot more power than this governing body. And we can certainly, I take the approach certainly to try to work through those issues with both the residents and with the new development that's coming in, and work with all the other agencies, including DOT. So you've got some people that say, well, we want the road improved. Right. But you're not going to have a road improved without growth. You're not going to have a road improved without development, because DOT is reactive. They're not proactive. So I just think that I like to hear what, I guess, Chad and some of the residents out there envision for this area. And then also the thing that I think that we need to make sure that we do is when we set up the industrial park years ago, this was a sharing plan of between the chamber and Mebane, regardless of where the person went. And there was talks at that time back then about expanding the industrial park and, you know, what that would be like. So I think that if we're going to all meet, every stakeholder needs to make sure that they are involved in that, which is the community, the city of Mebane, and the chamber as well. Because everybody has, you know, their own perspective, and we need to try to come together and work out a plan to develop in that area at some point. Not be reactive when a developer comes, but be more proactive about what we want to see there in that area. Bobby, I know you've worked on this, so I'll recognize you next.
Yes, before being elected to city council, I was on the planning board, and recognizing that Cherry Lane was being developed primarily at that time as distribution warehouses. And my thoughts were, well, we need to bring in other industries, so we're not reliant upon a single industry in providing us a workforce or businesses here in Alamance County. And and at that time, it was the first time I met Chad, and we talked about it. And our thoughts were, well, we don't want to be so restricted we drive folks out, but we'd like to make it, the overlay would allow us to define the types of businesses we would like to have there. Where there's a lot of, when you talk about robotics, artificial intelligence, research and such, those are the kind of businesses we would like to have in Alamance County and in Graham. The jobs are well paying. They hire more than just folks working in a warehouse. And I think it would, so Chad and I were in agreement with that. So if we could define, those type of industries, light industrial, the kind of manufacturing that does not overwhelm the environment, robotics, artificial, like I said, with 3D printing, whatever. So that we kind of set the direction of the type of businesses we want to bring to Alamance County and to Graham. So that's why, Chad has pursued this, and I think it's a step in the right direction.
I agree, we need to hear from the residents, and the people that this would affect. I do, however, think we need to be careful about how restrictive we get. We don't want to cut our noses off to spite our faces here. To invoke an old euphemism, but I mean, these are the type things we normally set forth when a business comes in, and that's what the council does, and we talk about setbacks and we talk about lighting and, all this type of stuff at that time. And I think it can be handled by ordinances. I don't want to see overkill with something like this. And quite frankly, we don't want to do this every time for each community as these things come up. So I think we need to be very, very careful with the whole thing. Because I don't want it to be too restrictive, discourage folks from coming in. And I don't want us to end up having to do this for every single community when the time comes when they want to develop around it. So we need to be careful. But I would think we probably need to table the issue for now, but that's just my opinion. Until we
So-
get more.
Did you get a chance to look over what they have?
Yeah, I did, and I know Josh did as well. And to speak to Councilman Chen's point, I think going into the original overlay, the longer one, it was sort of centered on trying to address the type of uses that were going to be in that area. But as you mentioned, you kind of have to play to what your abilities are. We have very limited, and I say very strong, power capabilities out there. So certain industrial uses aren't able to be considered. And then certain industrial uses, due to the way that our wastewater treatment plant is set up, can't handle a certain type of use because it will wipe out the way that we treat our wastewater. Certain pharmaceuticals, certain manufacturing, such as your dairy and all that, certain things, when you put that into the system, it kills them. It wipes them slam out, and it costs ridiculous. And then we had met with Burke and I had met with Duke Energy, and it's tens of millions of dollars to put the type of infrastructure in there to get that kind of power to run certain data centers and certain, and I believe you guys spoke to them as well. I think what we feel from staff from reading what the current one is, it seems like there's a heavy emphasis on trying to address the setbacks, the buffers, the lighting. Those seem to be the overwhelming things. And I think 95% of that can be covered with staff preparing a one-page address to that. Like, I feel like that can be handled in an immediate fashion. Josh, I mean, I know you looked at it, as well. And I know Josh had some comments on it too. I don't know if you want to chime in on it, but essentially we feel that we can handle it, with what he's trying to put out there, but do it in more of a fluid way so that we don't be so restrictive that it's encumbering what our neighboring jurisdictions are also trying to do with property that we are collectively looking at together.
So, I mean, did you give feedback on, because some of these things in here, I was a little bit, again, that's why I said, I'm not sure that this is within our scope to really be able to, no engine jake braking is permitted in the overlay district. I mean, it's an NCDOT road. I mean, I don't think you can
And part of it.
tell a truck that they can't brake. I mean, I understand that it's loud. I understand all of that, but I mean, I think that our ask, like the citizens' asks, need to be reasonable and rational. I mean, you literally get on the interstate that's 8 lanes wide and tractor trailers go up and down the road beside you all day. So, for instance, and I'm not saying everybody is in this position, but Oldfields, I think, was intentionally built further back off the road because they knew that the industrial park was going to be there. So I just want us to be purposeful in the asks of the things that we're asking. So like, no off premise tractor trailers, with the rear axle is permitted within the Cherry Lane overlay district, tow trucks and rescue vehicles and emergency equipment, working within the public right of way, are exempt, but, you're trying to, you can't, I don't believe it's within our scope, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we don't have a right as a council to restrict traffic on a DOT road. Is that not correct?
We're very, very limited. We can make suggestions and recommendations, but ultimately it's their role. And if it pleases council, what I would suggest would be if staff, myself, Cameron, Josh could sit with maybe Chad and any other of the planning board members that kind of want to sit in on that with us, not to have a quorum, but maybe discuss maybe how we can put some language into the ordinance, and then they can consider that at their probably too late now, because I think they meet next week, but their January meeting possibly.
Mhm. Well, I think that I do like an idea of having a plan, because I think as a developer, we want to know what the community wants, what the council is favorable to. So walking into a place and knowing kind of like, if you're going to abut residential, we're going to want to see a buffer. It can either be a buffer with trees that's opaque, or some sort of landscaping, or I think they have in this here, something's, they have berms, some as tall as 16 foot, but why would you need a 400-foot setback if you've got a berm? I mean, that didn't make sense to me. But so like, I think giving developers options to say you can either do a berm or have a 400-foot setback, or, if you need your, whatever it is to be closer to the road, then you need to use a berm or some sort of opaque landscaping. But to try to keep tractor trailers off the DOT roads that is not owned or operated by the city of Graham, I don't want people to get false hope that that's something that we won't do. It's something that we can't do, that we don't have control over. So I just think that we need to focus on realistic goals. And I think that the staff working with the citizens group can really shed some light on that. And whatever we end up doing, I think we need to also include our other stakeholders, the chamber and the staff from Mebane.
Madam Mayor, just as a point of clarification, because you've mentioned it twice now, the chamber has no role in the industrial park. I believe you mean the county. The county government, county commissioners, and Mebane, the city, and Graham, the city, are the three partners.
Oh, yes. I don't know. I'm sorry. I apologize. You're exactly correct. I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea necessarily, because I know that the chamber does advocate for us to also include them, but I was leaving out the county. And I meant to include them. So I apologize. Thank you for making that correction. But I think having all of those other partners come and at least have some input as to what we want to do, I think would be a smart thing. Joey, what concerns or comments do you have about this?
I can just say when I was speaking to the planning board members at the last meeting, it was not so much to get this overlay approved or whatever. It was just direction. on where they needed to go with it. Because if you don't do something, because I know since I've been on the council for 6 or 8 months, this has kind of been in the background and nothing's really been discussed. So they just wanted to get the ball rolling on what direction, because if you don't do something, all the land's going to be developed and you're not going to have any protection there. So it was more to get the conversation back open and put some, get something in motion so we can do something before it's too late.
Do you have any comment?
Yes. I agree with you. I think before we do anything, that we've got to have our stakeholders to sit down together. Not only Graham, but also the county and the city of Mebane. Because they got a vested interest in this area. I mean, we've put a lot of money and effort into to getting jobs brought into this area. And I think a lot of it can be handled through, like you said, development changes to the ordinance that would clarify a lot of this for us.
Yes. Sure.
Good evening. My name is Hugo Kreischer. You need my address and all that good stuff, right? Last name is Kreischer. It's Kreuscher. And I'm at 2005 Cherry Lane, Hall River, North Carolina, 27258. So I'm gonna run through some things to kind of give you guys some perspective, but I want to let you know that every one of your questions and concerns are actually already answered and resolved, believe it or not. So I'm going to kind of go through what's going on in my head so you guys have a better understanding. So just bear with me. So I'm going to take a moment as a landowner on Cherry Lane to share my perspective and what I envision for Cherry Lane. Before I do, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. That way everyone here has a better understanding of what I see and how I think. Like some of you might know, I'm born and raised in Boca Raton, Florida. I moved here in 2017 with the goals of raising our children in a more grounded environment. I was raised by my grandparents, and those old school values are in my DNA. I'm the most transparent person you will ever meet. I learned a long time ago from my grandpa that if you never tell a lie, you never have to remember anything. So I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about myself. I'm an open book. The good, I'm a very blessed man, first and foremost. I'm a husband and a father of 5. Family's everything to me. I've been in the financial industry for 23 years now. I got my Series 7 life, health, and variable annuity license when I was 19. Built and still own a successful residential and commercial lending company that's 100% word of mouth, no marketing. I have partnerships in multiple businesses, from renewable energy, credit restoration, toxicology testing, and industrial land development. I'm also a co-chairman for a nonprofit called the Freedom Hub. Our purpose is to help our younger generation understand and implement biblical values through after-school programs. I never could do all that on my own. I have an extraordinary team that surrounds me, and I have the amazing ability to be very resourceful. My passion is helping people. Now the bad, which nobody likes to talk about. I've been bankrupt, had multiple foreclosures, repossessed vehicle, lost an entire company at the age of 24, had the lowest credit scores imaginable, and been through a very interesting divorce. The good thing is I learned from my mistakes. Failure is the best teacher in my opinion, and I have been able to recover everything. Finally, the ugly. My 3 childhood friends were pretty ugly. My wife disagrees, and I have some good-looking kids that back that up. You guys are supposed to laugh. Thank you. That's pretty much me in a nutshell. So what does this have to do with Cherry Lane? So as the owner of 30 acres directly on Cherry Lane, let me explain. December 2021, we had a developer come into our neighborhood and present a project that was not in the best interest of the community. After countless attempts from the developer to get approval, everyone, including you, agreed that the project was not a good fit. As most of you probably already know, I objected as well and had a big part in stopping that developer. Even though they were denied, it caused me to really start digging for more information as to what was going on with Cherry Lane and why there was so much interest in development. I might not be the smartest guy in this room, but I am resourceful enough to have partners that made me aware of the following. I-85, which is known as the mega corridor throughout the Southeast, is providing e-commerce companies a large existing highway network with the ability to serve the quickly growing Southeast population. The Southeast population, the relatively low cost of living, and the reshoring of manufacturing to the US are going to continue to drive all types of industrial user demand throughout the Southeast. Don't quote me on this, I can't recall the exact figures, but we are also located in such a spot that a truck driver can reach 50% of the US population in one single trip. Even though we have been in a raising interest rate environment, there is still a window of opportunity based on market demand and our logistics. This is a great location. You might be wondering why I share this information with you. Well, this land is where I'm raising my family, and I wanted to see if there was truly a way to stop the future development or not. I came to the conclusion, since I don't own the rest of the land on Cherry Lane, that development was going to eventually come whether I got in its way or not. I began to think that maybe I should just sell as well. The property adjacent to me is for sale and somebody's going to develop it. I don't want to raise my family looking at a massive warehouse. But I kept coming back to the thought of the rest of our neighbors and how it would affect them. My goal in this community is to build our family name in such a way that when I pass away and my grandkids are walking the streets, that they can hold their heads high because their grandfather was a man of his word and did what was right for everyone. Then it hit me. I have the contacts and partners. I'll just buy the land and do this with my team instead of an outside developer that has no clue what the community needs. This could work for everyone involved. We started reaching out to landowners adjacent to my property. First was Meg Phipps, then Carl Westman. We made substantial offers to each of those landowners. I thought that since we were willing to pay top dollar for their land, that this would be a no-brainer. Once we owned the land, we would have control, allowing us to be the liaison between the city council, community, and the developer. That way, I know the project gets done right, representing our family name the way I envision. Meg Phipps was extremely upset with me as she learned I was part of the reason the previous developer backed out. Carl Westman was not happy with me either. Since he would not return any of my calls, I decided to mail him a box of cookies and a letter of intent to buy over 100 acres of his land on Cherry Lane. When I did this, he happened to be away on vacation, which I would have never known. He lives in Tennessee. Since there was a package left on his front door, he got the impression that it would alert people he was away and potentially rob him. He let me know this via email. So my plan ended. So the good news for me is I don't have to sell. There's no need. I have a great property. My kids love it. But if I had a choice of when I would like to sell, and if I had to, it would be now. That way we can build another home on another property while my kids are still 8 years and younger. I tell you this so that you as our council members can help us landowners come together. If you're willing, it could change everything for this entire city. We could create the Graham Industrial Park. I have the ability to bring in a developer who will do this as one cohesive project and would meet all our needs. instead of the 3 to 5 different developers just shoving as big a building as possible on individual plots. Can you bring up that picture? There you go. So do you guys know what lot is mine? No. I don't want you to look so far away.
Have one.
You see the property that looks like a toilet bowl up there? Does everybody see that kind of next to the pond? Right there, and then to the right a little bit. So I own that toilet bowl looking property, and then I also own the property that has that pond on it, which is directly on Cherry Lane. So I'm gonna kind of give you an idea of what's possible and what I've gotten confirmed that can be done. The 30 acres that I own is a big key to the success of what I'm proposing. Since I'm willing to get out of the way, this allows a developer to create a commercial PUD, restricting the entrance and exit to Governor Scott Farm Road. There will be no entrance or exit off of Cherry Lane. Obviously, this is a rough draft and we'll have to get into specific setbacks that works for the neighbors and the developer. But one of the biggest issues is excess truck traffic on Cherry Lane. This will work, but we have to stop thinking about ourselves as individual landowners and come together. I have the developer ready to go. If we can get on the same page as landowners and council members, me and my team are willing to be the liaison between you, the council members, and the developer, making sure everyone gets what they want. Questions, concerns? So basically, there needs to be, been working on this since last year. So that green is the main road. That green is the road that we would build on the property on the back of that Cherry Lane. So we would eliminate any entrance and exit off of actual Cherry Lane. Does that make sense? Can you see that? So the problem that's happening right now, and the reason the FIPS lost their contract that they have. So the FIPS are literally that 35 acres that's to the right of me. Can you put that mouse on that, Aaron? So that 35 acres, that's right there. So the Crow Development Group just backed out of that property. The reason they say they backed out is because of water rights. I talked to them personally. But the problem that everybody's going to have as developers is they want to put these industrial buildings on these properties because that's what the market is demanding. If everybody would come together and we would just talk and have a dialogue with the other landowners, I'm not looking at this financially. I'm fine. I'll do well. But if I know that property where your mouse is for sale, Westman, just, Aaron, it's right below me on the bottom where that's Westman there. And then across the street is Westman as well. Then go back to Phipps and then go to the other big chunk of property. I think that's the Penalties. They will be willing to sell as well. But we just have to talk with each other. Nobody wants to talk anymore. It's amazing. I offered a massive amount of money, $7.5 million to Carl Westman, and he got mad because I mailed him cookies. I don't know. So I wanted to present that to you guys so you had some kind of perspective, but there's a way to make it work with a road that gets off Cherry Lane. If it's one cohesive project, you can do enough of a setback to where it would work, where even across the street, they wouldn't see it, hear it, or anything like that. So does anybody have any questions? It's concerning that none of you guys have questions.
I'd like to learn more.
Okay, well, that's why I'm here. I'm not,
I think we
not
need
some
to,
Joe Schmo,
but I think, what you're proposing, I think you need to give us a little bit more definition as to, for example, the developer you're who's interested and what you're planning to bring in. And instead of using, and we do have a planning board.
Right.
And in truth, that's where this should start.
But if you guys don't have a vision of the perspective of what the outcome could be, they're not going to be able to present it like me. So
Well,
that's why I did that.
what
this is-
what you're proposing is something that Mr. Huffine and I were talking about in regards to the overlay
Mhm.
of trying to define what's there. You have taken our thoughts to that next level where now you've we weren't at that point of, what you've done with talking to the owners,
Yeah, the
All
only
right.
way this works is because I'm willing to get out of the way.
which I appreciate your efforts.
I just realized
I
I
think-
wouldn't be able to stop it.
I don't think you'll have any disagreement with us. But it's one of those things that we do have to think in terms of the county.
Yeah.
And Mebane, where again, everything you've said so far sounds good, but now it's one of those things of, okay,
Let's get
The
together and
next
talk it
step.
out and figure out the next steps. No, I get it. I just wanted to give you guys an idea. so
I
you
think
know.
it's a great
absolutely.
idea, but again, we'd like to know a little bit more, but I think it's great because we all recognize the issues that we had with the developer, the water rights crossing that stream. And what you're proposing with that road negates that.
Correct.
So I think you got a vision that if I knew more about it, but yeah,
Well, it wasn't just me, but I appreciate that.
well, the
Thank you.
team that you've put together.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Madam Mayor, though,
Mhm.
don't I understand, first of all, the road, the green line is the supposed road on the back side of those properties. But it's shown running through properties that, as I understood his presentation, owners are not interested in selling. But more than that, even if it worked, there is no limitation on when the trucks get to Governor Scott Farm Road, whether they turn right and then right again on Cherry Lane or left on Cherry Lane, or whether they turn left and go down to Senator Ralph Scott Parkway. There's no limitation. DOT has been very explicit that any kind of lawful vehicle is entitled to go on their roads anyway.
That is correct. And the reason why the previous development couldn't happen is that they were under the assumption that they could do development near some streams that pass through the property, and all the credits from Diener had been taken up. So every credit that is out there, and I think even UPS, as many as strings as UPS can even pull. I think they had to build like a bridge. How much was that bridge, Aaron? It was over $1 million, right? Because that you could not disturb the waterway. So I'm sure they would have loved not to spend upwards of $1 million to do that, but unfortunately, Diener's very powerful, way more powerful than this city council. And they're gonna say they're gonna limit development on there to be, excuse me, to have a buffer.
Be on the front part of the property.
Correct, and away from the waterways. So, but it is, it is good for, the stakeholders of the industrial park to know that, individuals are wanting to sell so that in a way that it can be, marketed as a whole. But we as a council, I think you have to be very careful as council members. This body does not own any parcel out there. And we don't, I certainly don't have the, the arrogance to try to tell a property owner what they will and will not do with their property. People have property rights. I respect people's property rights. And whether they want to sell or not sell, the reason why the industrial park isn't as large as it was wanted is because there were certain parcel owners that did not want to sell at that time when it was always thought that at some point landowners change hands, development sweetens the pot a little bit, so to speak, and won't, gives them basically offers they can't refuse. I do think that as a council, what we should be doing is protecting, well, maybe protecting isn't the right word, because development doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's more about finding, when you have multiple uses, finding a harmonious way that we can all live together. And so I think that's what we need to focus on, and things like not having Jake breaks on a DOT road are not things that are productive and like necessarily, I want us to be successful in our asks. And so I just hope that we can, maybe I'll sit down together and let everybody kind of hear each other's concerns and then come up with a plan that will work, whether that's an overlay district or whether we, I don't know if it's possible, Aaron, because someone had mentioned to me, isn't there like a type zoning for like when we do our landscaping and things like that, that we could designate for a specific area for a specific zone rather than necessarily an overlay district, that will accomplish the same thing?
And that's what I was getting at. I think, in our ordinance currently, there are areas that are spelled out, properties adjacent to East Elm Street, blah, blah, blah. You could do the same thing here, properties adjacent to Cherry Lane, and you can limit the area, because I don't know if necessarily you want to run it all the way to 54, but maybe from Jimmy Kerr to Trollingwood, try to keep it in a more condensed space that you're having that demand. But that's essentially what I was saying earlier.
Well, I mean, I think you have to have everybody, to his point, you do have to have everybody talking to each other, because it's not going to do very much good for someone to be out here marketing an industrial park that includes property that the owner's not wanting to sell, or maybe they don't want to sell for a specific purpose. We had some people that were interested in selling, but what they really want is this type of use, not this type of use. And so we need to try to work with property owners to see what they collectively could all agree on. And then I think the different stakeholders can then market, put out to market, hey, this is available property. This is what the community is wanting to have, and make sure that future development is responsible. So,
Madam Mayor.
we weren't really, we're not really doing any kind of public hearing or anything. I allowed him to speak because he asked to speak, but if you want to make a proposition about.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment, though. Here's an opportunity where a private citizen is reaching out and working with other private citizens to come up with a solution. Where is it defined that we as city government have to be the one making the decision? If he's willing, if these citizens are willing to work with him to come to a resolution of what they would like to see happen, then they can then present it through the planning board eventually to us as city council as to a proposal that if the, you know, that we agree with, you know, what they're going to bring in, if it's mixed industry, so forth, and it satisfies all the residents, who are we to say they can't?
What, get together and decide that?
I mean, let him do the legwork in talking to the citizens.
Well, I don't think the property owners are willing to,
I'm saying, let him decide, talk to the property owners.
well, I mean, that's what he said he did, and they won't talk to him.
But again, he's finding out what their concerns are.
Yeah.
Let
I think
him,
it's-
No, you're partially correct. So Tally's correct. So I've tried to reach out to the neighboring. And I offered Eclipse $1 million more than she went to contract on. She's mad at me because I stopped the last developer because I wasn't gonna move. This is my house, this is my family. I'm not moving. But I had to back out of it and not be emotional and really start to, instead of being reactive, be proactive, which you guys are talking about. And that little chunk, Aaron, from Phipps, and then all the way Phipps's corner to Westman's corner to the left, that they all will sell. Carl Westman was gonna sell me that land in September 2021. But he got so upset and he must have got furious when we blocked that other developer. He got raged because I talked to him on the phone and I was like, yeah, I'll buy it. But I didn't have the understanding of what could possibly occur and how, you know, I mean, if I got to sell my house, I got 5 kids to move. I have a farm on that property. So I wasn't going at that point because I literally got something in the mail that said, hey, there's going to be a building there. So after I calmed down, but it was too late. I already burnt the bridge.
So
I'm
maybe
not-
there needs to be a neutral party.
That's
yeah.
that's what I'm trying, like, I'm not looking, I'll give them full price. I don't care. I just want this to be done right. You know what I mean? Like that's it. Because if I don't get out of the way, what's gonna happen, and it's already happened with the Phipps, I think 3 times, the parcels aren't big enough for the capital investment that a developer has to put in that piece of land for the size of the building that they can build on those little parcels. It needs to be bigger. So it makes financial sense. So you guys can get your water stuff, like whatever, but that's my piece.
And the thing is, though, we've got multiple parcels, multiple owners. And everyone has an idea, every owner has an idea of what they
Right.
want that property to be.
Absolutely correct.
You know, I understand that you'd like to bring everybody together, but it's going to be really hard to do. I mean, I've talked with some of the property owners there and, you know, they bought those properties for investments to sell off when they retire. You know, there's a lot of different uses that people have in mind. And then there's people like yourself that bought it as a nice place to raise your family and, you know, be out in the open and not have a bunch of big buildings around you. So, you know, there's a lot of feelings to consider here that we can't solve as a council because like Mayor Talley said, we don't own any of that property. You know, different people own it. And, you know, if you can get everybody together, great, you know. I mean, I wish you luck, but I don't really foresee that happening. Everybody has their own idea of what they want to do.
The question is since you guys are the governing body and you will have a final say on whatever goes on, I know for a fact every one of them around me will sell. Can you guys let start the dialogue with them? Because they don't even know that. They think I'm probably some out-of-state New Yorker, whatever. Sorry if anybody's from New York. That's probably trying to take advantage of them or something.
I keep hearing you say, you know, they'll sell, and I got somebody shaking their head out here right now, and I'm telling you,
Who's
you know, there are people that will not sell.
Are you Meg? No,
I mean,
which
that's
one are
not
you?
fact.
And everyone, so
Which
I'm
one?
new to this. So my name is Tanya, 2300 Cherry Lane. And unfortunately, but it is part of Cherry Lane, so it has something to do with it. You have a voice as well as I have a voice as well. Thank you. So unfortunately, I am at the pit, 2300 Cherry Lane. I own 2.79 acres. I am surrounded by, my backyard is surrounded by, I think it's 40 acres. The right side of me is 56 acres. So a developer wants a hole. You cannot have a hole when there is a piece of property that is right in the middle. And why is this important to me? My grandfather bought this land. And he said he farmed it. I watched my dad farmed it. I did the same. That's 3 generations. 5 generations have already walked that land. It might be 2.79 acres to somebody, but to me, there is no price that anybody could offer that would change my mind to sell. So here's Cherry Lane right here. I'm a 1/4 mile off the road in the middle of what every developer wants. I'm very new to this and I'm very vulnerable because I've never done anything like this. So I feel very intimidated, but I am here just to let you know that
I mean, don't feel intimidated. I think, you know.
it's very scary. I
The
apologize.
council is elected by the people and our goal is to represent your interest. But there's a lot of interest here at play. There are people that own property that want development. There are people that, you know, that don't want development. I think that, you know, as much as you might own your section of glory,
My solace.
right, exactly. There may be people around you that have different intentions
Exactly.
and, you know, I think that, like I love the barn, the historical barn that's out there and then possibly turning that into a venue. But, you know, you have to take into consideration that, the industrial park has been around, gosh, I mean, I was on the council 20 years ago. And that was something, I mean, Aaron, how many years have you had that map in there from Summit about developing that property? And, you know, Meg Scott Phipps and the other ones, they get a huge discount on their tax basis because the property is not zoned industrial. And, but I do know that pre Oldfields even, there was a lot of talk about, hey, you know, this isn't gonna be rolling countryside forever, that this
Exactly.
will at some point be developed. And I think that probably played somewhat into them building much further off the road than right up at the road, but I think that, you know, our goal, like I said earlier, is to look at everybody's interest, you know. Meg Scott Phipps is not, or any of the property owners out there are not trying to hurt their neighbors.
Absolutely.
But that's real easy to do because they feel like they've been
And
hurt
yes,
because
absolutely.
they had a deal on the table and they needed to sell for whatever financial reason they needed to
And I
sell.
understand and respect everybody's perspective, and I'm new to ideas, so I just wanted to bring my concerns. So my concerns are, okay, so I wished I had a map because I'm such a visual person. So I'm in the middle, surrounded by 96 acres of land. So either way, you can't, I mean, I'm kind of a thorn in somebody's back at the end of the day, but this is land that's going to be passed on to my children and to my grandchildren.
Is it for sale right now?
Never will be for sale.
No, I mean, around the
Yes,
property
ma'am.
that's around you.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Both,
you know
both
the
properties.
development around you is gonna be sold.
Yes, and I'm okay with that. So the concerns that I do have is the extension of the, like, what about the wildlife that's already out there? So where will that go to? So that's 96, and regardless, whether it be industrial, robots, whatever, what have you, then you have the cow pasture. Cow pastures really don't mix really well with industrial work. So the cow pastures to the left, as you go down, coming off of Cherry Lane to the left, you have like 50 some cows, okay? Does that mix well? We have to eat, we need food. So I worry about the wildlife going into new homes like the Cherry Creek or the old fields, because if you're gonna tear it all up and just create all industrials, those animals have to go somewhere. They really ultimately have to go somewhere at the end of the day. So we have coyote, we have wild turkey, of course, we have deer, we have a lot of different kind of species of animals out there that is important to every single one of us for our well-being. You know, so I worry about that. Then I worry about, of course, the noise, which, hey, regardless, it's, you know, you want everybody to get what they want at the end of the day, because I don't want somebody to tell me, hey, you can't do this on your property. So if they zone it for like light industrial or whatever industrial, does that change how people pay their tax? Like, will it increase or decrease the value on the taxes? How does that affect the people that's been there for generation, that this is farmland to many? I know a lot of people say that, I'm not going to that meeting. I'm not going to that meeting. There, you know, it doesn't matter. No, well, I feel like it's different. I feel like I matter. My voice matters just like everybody else, and everybody has an interest. And I have no rebuttal of to do anything, but I do have concerns about how much traffic that road can actually handle. So the North Carolina Department of Transportation, of course, did the roads, but I don't know if you've been down Cherry Lane,
Yeah.
but the roads are very uneven.
Yeah.
There's actually so many incidents I've already seen since within the last month that cars have drawn off the side of the road because it's so unlevel.
Yeah.
And I understand that they're in the process of working on that, and I think that's great. But all the way down Cherry Lane, there's big ditches. You know, I just worry about, hey, is there going to be more accidents? And now with the wildlife coming out, it's just, I have a lot of personal concerns, and maybe I'm not like all of you guys here and have it all together in a great structure. But I just wanted to come here to let you know that my parcel will never be for sale, and I will always value it. And it's a
And
family.
that's fine. Like this council, I don't
Yeah.
think there's a council member on here that
Yeah, I'm very
is trying
appreciative
to
of it.
pressure anybody to do anything. It is your, I am
Thank you.
very respectful of property rights and what you want to do with your property. I just think that, you know, if there's gonna be development around you, it's in your best interest to have a council that is going to be trying to ensure that that development is respectful of your property rights and has buffers, has landscaping, canopy, has, you know, opaque kind of landscaping that you can't see through.
I think I'm
Having,
so much more concerned with like the environment, like the animals going out into Cherry Creek. They will resort to somewhere because they will be seeking something to eat. You take out all of this, what's been here for God knows how long, and you tear it all down, where are they going to go to? They will go somewhere to find food, you know, and will they start going to those residents, and will people want to buy those homes with all the industrial going around? You know, people come to North Carolina because they seek peace, comfort, country. Well, there's no country left. So it's
well,
just
the
my
good-
opinion.
The good thing about Old Fields is that it is down off the road. And
Cherry
again,
Creek is actually, have you seen that new development right off to the right?
Mhm.
Right off the bridge, that's Cherry Creek. That's where the $400,000 home will be built. Okay, so on the opposite side of the road of that, if all that is gone, I'm just saying that I have a concern for, you know, how things will be zoned, how much traffic will go up and down that road, and I worry about the wildlife.
Mhm. I don't know how to address the wildlife, but I will
Yeah.
tell you that the other things, I think that's something that the council can address, and try to do what we can to ensure that there's responsible development around you, that takes you into consideration. So I know at one point we were gonna address, I was told at least that we were gonna address a lot of these things once we did the land use plan. But I guess you know, my question, I guess, back to staff would be, is that something that is best handled overall in the land use plan that I think we have scheduled for this summer, right? I think yeah,
That's currently in the works now. So the first of the year, would be when they'll start the steering committee meetings, reaching out to a couple of council members, a few of our planning board members, some of our citizens here in Graham, some of the residents. So we're already getting that process rolling. Y'all approved the fund in, I think, 2 months ago.
Hmm.
And January, we would be 100 miles per hour.
So I mean, it may be, you know, you want one hand to know what the other hand's doing. So just because it hasn't been on a agenda doesn't mean that we're not working on it and that staff's not working on it. We understand that there's things that need to be changed. And I think it's one of the things that when I got elected on the council, that I was very concerned about is the overwhelming number of people that said, oh, I didn't know this was going on, but people will say that. And I just want us to make a greater effort as a city to notify property owners when we're doing these upcoming comprehensive planning, because I think they didn't know, like, something that had happened years
didn't
ago,
know.
whatever. So I think, you know, trying to make sure that you guys are aware, we'll certainly try to reach out to the newspaper. I know we have like legal requirements of notification, but let's be real, nobody really looks at
Like I've
those
never,
things.
I learned about this probably like 7 days ago. They were like, hey, did you know? I was like, oh, no.
Yeah,
So I'm just wrote down some things and I just wanted to be a voice because there's a lot of people that said, hey, yes, we own land here. We're not going to sell, but why are we going to go there? These people that have money, they're just going to do what they want to. And I say, no, I say your voice still matters because at the end of the day, you do.
that's-
Everybody's voice matters.
well, thank you for.
So thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be vulnerable to this situation. Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
I would make a recommendation that we hold off making any kind of decision on this overlay until the comprehensive plan is over with.
And I think maybe Aaron, to Ricky's comment, there may need to be like a smaller group that comes out of the comprehensive planning group that actually meets specifically about this and the residents, because I know I've been to many of those and they're, you know, I mean, you're doing sections, right? Sections in the city. When you're looking at the plan, and I think when we do the section that involves the industrial park, that's when we could possibly bring in, you know, Mebane, the county, possibly the chamber, as well, to kind of make sure that we're hearing from everybody, every stakeholder that we have there.
Yeah, I think the word of what we're doing is gonna be put out there, and we're gonna make sure that everyone, I wasn't here for the last update. I was in a different place at the time, but we'll make sure that it's out there for folks to know we're discussing this. We have several areas that we're addressing. You got areas on South, you know, Maine, you got areas down Rogers, you got areas down Hanford. I mean, it's more than just Cherry Lane, although Cherry Lane is an important keyed in area, it is one of several. So we're making sure that no one is being sort of left out of the know when it comes to this update. So it's going to be on water bills, it's going to be mailers, it's going to be on the website, it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be in the flyers on the City Hall. We're going to make sure that everyone has had an opportunity in some form or fashion, ads in the paper, to know what we're doing and when these meetings are occurring. And there are more than one meeting, of course. So we're gonna make sure we do our part.
Okay. Well, I don't think that we could get it together any faster than what we're already doing with the planning for the comprehensive plan. And so if you could kind of think about it, you said you're a visual person, on a map, kind of taking this area, looking at how we're going to do land use in that particular area, making sure that everybody comes and addresses their concerns, and then doing another section, and then doing another section. And then at some point, us all coming together and having, kind of an overall view of the city, and addressing needs that affect everywhere. We have an interstate that comes through, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, and, that does affect you, even though you might not be right at the interstate. So, I guess Ricky's motion is to table this until we can address it in the, comprehensive plan that we already have kind of in motion, that would start sometime in, January. I mean, we're right here at the end of our year, so I don't know that we could do anything between now and then, but, I think I would tend to agree with him, but do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So I just want you to know that, tabling it doesn't mean that we're, not working on it. Staff has been working on addressing issues, and, I just hope that when your group gets together, you guys try to focus on things that, we can, implement and not have any kind of pushback from DOT, so we can all be successful in what we're trying to plan.
So do I need to, get with some of the neighboring people and just be like, hey, we all need to sit down and we need to talk and then come back? So I'm just trying to figure out the process, like how this works. Like I said, this is all new to me, and so make sure it's done in the
Sure.
proper way.
Sure. So the staff, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the staff will set up public meetings for the review of the comprehensive plan. And like he said, he'd be advertising it everywhere. You can also get on what's called our sunshine list, which lets you know about different meetings that we have coming up. And then once you're notified and you come to some of the, and I think it'll be a whole series of meetings, right, Aaron? So it's like, if you miss one, there'll be another meeting. And really you can address your specific issues in your area when we're doing your area. But then if you have concerns about your kid goes to Graham, South Graham, and you want to, have some sort of comment about that or whatever, there's other meetings that you can also, and they're public, so
Well, I
you're
just
fine
wanted
to attend.
really honestly thank you, because I feel like I really got the attention of everyone. I wasn't just kind of like myself to the side. So I'm very grateful for that, and that makes me very optimistic that there's gonna be a change. And so I appreciate that. I really do. I'm very-
Thank you. Do we have any, there was no one signed up to speak, city staff comments? Any city staff comments? City council, do you have anything, Bonnie?
Just one thing, and I'll be brief. A while back, we had asked staff to do a traffic study in Valleyfield on the cul-de-sacs that were having problems with the trash trucks and the mail being delivered and school buses getting into the cul-de-sacs because of all the traffic parked down there. And Aaron, could you kind of maybe tell us what the results of that were?
Absolutely. I think just from speaking with our Public Works Director, Bert Robertson, it was concluded that we may not necessarily need to prohibit parking in the cul-de-sac, but maybe restrict the time of parking so that it wouldn't interfere with the trash service, buses, individuals who are having to come there frequently. So if council by consensus head nods, want me to bring back something next month, an amendment to our traffic study, we're coming with a timeframe that would work for the sanitation department. Probably I'm gonna say 7 to 5 timeframe, but that could change. We'll bring back some language that would address an amendment to the traffic study, traffic schedule, if that's fine with council.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have anything, Joey?
I do. This is directed to Assistant Manager Aaron here. The water line on Albright, what's the update on that?
So we have been looking into possible replacement of that line. I know this was something that we had discussed several months back. It is one of those lines that we have sort of keyed in on as well. I think just based on the information and bids that we received back, we would have to address any replacement through ARPA funding. We did not budget for any replacement of that line with this particular budget cycle that we're currently in. We do have some contractors doing work within the city currently. And they actually were a lower bid, and the lowest bid of the ones that we reached out to there. Maybe basically because they can tag it on to the existing project that they're currently doing. To mobilize and come back, it would, be a significant increase, which is why the other bids were $80,000 to $100,000 higher. So we may come to council with a potential special meeting after discussing it with y'all to see if that's something that you would like to do, and we can get back with you, on that particular date and time.
So I have a question about that. I know you're putting the line in, and just because I'm married to a licensed plumber, so the plumbing going from the main line that you're putting down the road to the houses, not always, but could still be just as old as the line going down the road. Are we gonna explain to those residents that when you're upgrading here, it might be, depending on how old your lines are, you may want to update as they go down the road?
And I think Josh can speak to that, but I think that's something that we really make folks aware that this may not particularly solve the issue, because it
Right.
could be something from the main to your house, but anything you want to share on that, Josh?
That's a pretty good summary,
Oh.
but yeah, I mean, so on some projects, specifically, like, CDBG projects like we have applied for on the northwest side of town, included in that is replacement of the line to the house.
Right.
In this case, and on locally funded projects, typically we don't go beyond the right of way. We set the first clean out on the sewer projects. We go to the meter, we replace the meter. The service line from there to the house is the private property owner's responsibility. You're correct in that in some cases those are either, or they're usually as old as the water line, and potentially their materials, et cetera. And we are happy to let people know that this is a good time to do it, but we don't include that in the construction project. It's problematic to include
I
it.
just
with
want
work on the
people
private
to
property.
understand that, that it's not going to replace your water line from the street to your house. It's not going to update your plumbing underneath your house. And so if that is also 70 years old, you might want to contact a plumber. I just
Yes,
think
ma'am.
people have the general public sometimes has a very, and I just don't want misunderstandings to happen. Because I mean, these concerns have come to different council members,
Mhm.
and, we do our piece, but they also need to do their piece as well.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything, Ricky?
No, ma'am.
So today we had our epic Christmas luncheon. It was fantastic. For those of you that were not there, I just want to review some of the accomplishments that our staff have done this year. We received a 75-25 grant from the Department of Justice in order to hire 8 new patrol officers. This was a huge feat to be able to get this grant. We very much appreciate Chief Christy Cole Baker's work on this and her team to make this happen. We secured over $75 million in funding to upgrade our wastewater treatment plant. This is the single largest capital improvement in the city's history. We have applied for $2 million in block grant funding to pay for phase one of utility upgrades for the northern area of the city that's what we were just talking about, to upgrade the water lines in the northern part of the city. And when we look at leaks throughout the city, they light up kind of on a map, and you can see this is exactly where we need to be focusing our efforts to get the biggest bang for our buck. For the first time in Graham's history, we received $17.25 million in our state budget and special appropriations to do much needed replacement of our 70-year-old water main line from the water treatment plant to the center of town. And I want to personally thank Tanya, Bert, Tim, the staff, the engineering staff that we have coming into our office now, for all the hard work you guys put into getting us ready to do a complete overhaul of our infrastructure. The city council funded 68% of our capital improvement projects. In the past, I don't know of a time that we've been able to do that. Been very successful with that. When everybody else was budgeting for COVID, decreases in sales tax, decreases in people paying property taxes. I mean, Graham residents really came through, and our sales tax dollars actually went up, which is not something that happened in every city. And so it has allowed us to be able to really fulfill our obligations to these different departments to do these upgrades. We overhauled our inspection, utility, and development fees. We improved our health insurance plan for all our employees and retirees without any large increase in cost. We gave very much needed raises and CPI increases to our staff. We were recently awarded the NCDOT multimodal pedestrian grant in the amount of $36,000, which will improve our sidewalks. And Lord knows, we hope to get that done for you, sir, on Elm Street. So very happy to let you know that we have gotten our grant funding. We applied for a whopping $10 million in grant funding in the 2021-2022 fiscal year, and we'll continue to work on funding and recruiting new businesses to Graham. I want to personally thank all our department heads and our support staff, and especially Megan Garner and Aaron Holland for working so hard this past year. We greatly appreciate everybody's work to this end, but I mean, to see how far we've come in just a year, it's really amazing. And so I appreciate you indulging me and being able to let our newspaper, who can let our citizens know about all these wonderful accomplishments. I'm very proud to work with the people that we have here. I'm very proud to serve on the council here with our fellow council members, and I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. Thank you so much.
Madam
Thank
Mayor,
you.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.